Welcome everybody to this Simplebim product webinar on how to maximize your BIM value with Simplebim software. I'm Jarmo Kuusinen, Head of Partnerships at DataCubist, and I'm hosting this webinar today. Here with me is today Jiri Hietanen, who's the co-founder and CEO of DataCubist, which is the company behind Simplebim software. Jiri is architect by training and internationally recognized IFC specialist with like close to 2 decades of background in open BIM space. Soon he will be taking the floor and explaining to you how to use Simplebim to take most out of the IFC models and the purpose that they are really used for. DataCubist is the company behind Simplebim software, and we aim to solve data exchange problems in construction industry. The company was founded 2009 by Jiri and the other founder Sakari Lehtinen. Until that point in time, well, few facts and figures. We are already in the version 9 of the Simplebim app. Simplebim is the key product or the main product of DataCubist, and that's the product that we'll be focusing on today. We already have more than 5,000 users, professional users globally, well, in 32 different countries. We have 11 Simplebim resellers in 16 countries, so we are pretty happy about the growth that we're seeing. Just as a quick overview of our reseller network, as mentioned, 16 countries, 11 companies that are there to support you also locally with their services as well. But hey, I think that's about the company overview. Before jumping to the actual demo, I think Jiri will be explaining you a bit about the surroundings and so forth. But now, hey, I'm done. So with my part, Jiri, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First to check that you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, topic of today: how to maximize BIM value with Simplebim. And first, I have a few slides about a little bit theoretical about what Simplebim is about and what is the problem that we solve with Simplebim. And then I'll jump into Simplebim, the application, and show you live what I try to explain here in theory first. So this is one of our main pictures, and when you look at it on the right side, you have the question of what do I need? So when you use the models for something, quantity takeoff, cost estimating, procurement, scheduling on the construction site or anything else, the models need to have certain data, they need to meet certain criteria. So you have the question, what do I need? And then on the other side, you have, what do I get? What does the reality look like with the models that you produce from your design application or that you get from designers? And the issue is that these two things don't match. They don't fit together. And then you have the question, how do I solve this? How do I get from what I get to what I need? And here the answer is the normalization with Simplebim, so that you can take not exactly but almost whatever, and then you normalize that model with Simplebim, and then you get a reliable, relevant, consistent model that you can then use downstream for whatever purpose you have for the models. So this is the main idea of the Simplebim application. And when you start solving this picture, then you have a kind of a roadmap how you progress. So first you have the Simplebim application, and you have to look at the models you get from the designers or the original models. Look how they are structured, what data they contain, and so on, and use the many tools in Simplebim to normalize, to get to the end result, to get to what you actually need. And once you figure that out, you can start automating that same process using the Simplebim templates. And once you figure that out, then you can start automating even more using Simplebim scripts. So this is the and if you think about the topic of this this webinar, to get the maximum value out of BIM, you get to step 3, because that will give you the most value for the models you get from the designers or the original models from the design applications. So when you want to do this, you need some skills, and what are they? So first of all, in Simplebim, you deal with the model, of course. So the functionality you have is, how to import a model. That's easy. How to merge models, which means combine models, for example, from architect and structural engineer, and how to align models, for example, if those two models use different coordinates, how to get them on top of each other. So, how to create, first of all, a package that contains all the information that's available. Then you have the question of selecting some objects from that model. And there you have different techniques in Simplebim. And you can select just ad hoc, drag and drop, click, and so on. You can create groups, classifications, system zones, and even define geometric locations. Just create a selection of objects. Then you have the question of, each time you want to perform an operation, you need to have, the target of the operation, which is the selection. So, for example, if you wanted to export all the objects on the first floor, you would have to make a selection of all the objects on the first floor, and then export a new IFC file containing only those objects. Or if you want to manipulate, view, enrich data using BIM sheet, you need to select which objects you want to have in the BIM sheet. If you want to colorize all external walls blue, then you have to have a selection of the external walls. You get the idea. Enriching and editing property values. The model tree means the project site, building story, and so on, and even transforming coordinates, for example, for site surveying purposes. So those are all operations for which you need to make an object selection. So you need to have the skill of making those selections. And that's step 1. That's basically in the previous slide, that's doing things manually, figuring out what needs to be done and how. And in the step 1, another skill you need is, how to use the Simplebim application in the sense of 3D navigation, drag and drop workspaces, and so on. Okay, so that's how you get started. Then you have step 2, which is our templates. So there you then automate the things you've done in step 1, object selections and operations. Instead of selecting things in the user interface, you set up a rule. This is the rule how I find all the external walls from the model. What is the operation? Colorize them blue. So this is what templates do. But they always use the same steps, the same selections, the same operations that you would do manually in Simplebim. And then you have step 3 to get the maximum value from your BIM models. Then you basically have to move this that I see myself. Okay, so then you basically say, well, I want to automate this really. So I set up a script that imports a model, maybe merges other models to it, applies these templates, runs some tools, and then exports a new IFC file, which is then the one you use in your operations, what you want to do with the model. Okay, so this is basically laying out, the map, so what you need to know and in which order you are doing things. So let's jump to how it's then actually done in Simplebim. I assume that you already have Simplebim installed and you know something about Simplebim. But the very thing to get started is selecting which model to import. And there you have several ways of doing it. From the file menu, import, from here, import, from here, import, whatever you like. I like this one the most with the list of most recently imported models. So I have in this demo, we are going to use our small office building. And this now simulates, the kind of building you might get from the architect. And basic functionality in Simplebim, our 3D window functions pretty much like any other 3D window: left mouse button turn, mouse wheel zoom, pan, so on. And if you forget how it works, then here in the lower right hand corner we have this green info icon. You click on that and you get this quick help with with all the keyboard shortcuts and all that. Okay, so what do we do with this model? We're now happy with this one. We don't merge any new models to it. We don't have to edit its coordinates. We don't have to align the models and so on. So we can make a selection and then we do something with that selection. So let's say the most basic thing, you select with the mouse, you go in the 3D over an object and click on the object. Well, you select it. And what you can do with it, for example, is you click on it, hold a little while until this bar here up changes color, and you drag and drop it here to another, what we call a bucket. So now we have one object in this so-called included bucket. And if I was now to make a new IFC export, the new IFC file would contain only this one object. Okay, so I made a selection, and now I could make an operation based on that selection, export it to IFC. Okay, there are many other things we can do, but of course this time is limited in this demo. So I'm going to show you only a few other things, how you can make selections, and then we make a few actual operations, and then it's time to jump over to the automation part with templates. So this is a very nice thing here with the quick select. So if I was interested in all objects of a certain object class, I just select object class as the quick select. And now I may go over the same object again. Instead of selecting this one slab, it selected all the slabs in the model. And now I can, for example, include all the slabs. And if I want the walls, I can include all the walls. Same for the spaces, include all the spaces. And you can see how what I included disappears from this not decided yet, and I can see, what's still there, and I can make decisions about everything that is still there. When you think about the normalization, it means that certain properties need to be in a certain place in the model so that the receiving application knows how to use them. So I just, for an example, jump into our property editor, and I select, for example, our spaces, and let's take our space name, space name here, you can see that we have some space names here, and if we think about the values, we see that there's a meeting room, and then there's also meeting spelled in a different way. I just drag and drop this incorrectly spelled one on top of the correctly spelled one, and now in the exported file I would just have meeting rooms. Or if I take our walls and I take, for example, the type of the wall, then I can see that here in the type I don't have any meaningful values, just the thickness, but I have another property where I have the correct names. So I just take that one, drag and drop it here, copy, and now when I make an IFC export, I have these wall types in my model. So this is just a very small example of the normalization, but it makes all the difference, because then when you use the model for something, then you can know that the data is where you need it to be, and it has values that you can trust. Okay. Then when we think about taking the next step, which is the automation, then we can jump to can have these templates that do these things that we did in the user interface, but in an automated way. So I re-import this model, and let's jump here. I just quickly show to you what it looks like inside one of these templates, so that you get a feeling of what these templates look like. So it's basically an Excel file which has different kinds of defines different kinds of selections and operations. And one of the basic things usually in the normalization is to add some new properties for which you want to have values, that what these properties are and what they mean. Okay, and then you have some object classes, you add these properties to the object classes, and then you need to get data from existing properties to your own properties. So everything is pretty straightforward stuff. And then you can choose which objects you're interested in. For example, here we are interested in space walls and then this project site building and so on. And we are only interested in our own properties. So with a template, you define these kinds of things so that you don't have to do them every time manually. Okay. Then we have our model here already, and I just take this template and I drag and drop it on the model. So it applies this template to the model. Okay, so you can see the template automatically included some objects. So we only have the walls and the spaces. It set up some validation rules. For example, for space names, like for example, that the break room is not one of the allowed names, but let's change it to break, which is, and you see allowed, and you see that the validation goes through. So this is for trust, so that you can set up simple validation so that you know that your automation worked correctly and produced the result that you need. Okay. Yeah, and when you have all this working with the templates, so that you don't have to drag and drop, click, type all the time, you just apply a template, then you are ready to take the next step. And for the next step, I'm just going to close Simplebim for a while. And we can look at a script, which is a very simple thing here, Simplebim script. I open it with Notepad. So you can almost read this. It says import this this small office model, then merge some locations to it. You want to divide it into building construction sections. In this case, you merge locations to it. You apply the locations, you apply this automation template, and the end result you export into a new normalized IFC file. And then you close Simplebim. So again, simple and straightforward stuff. And I made this batch file that then runs this script file. So I just double click on this batch file. And then we wait for a second. And Simplebim starts, does all the things we defined, and then produces a new IFC file. Here it's finished the script, and now it's produced this new IFC file. And the new IFC file is here, normalized with the timestamp 1524, which is the finish time. We are on our head of most of you. So it produced the new IFC file. So now we can start Simplebim again. And then we are going to import this normalized IFC file. So we have it here, small office normalized. Okay, so this is now something you actually want to have. This is something that is useful because it contains the properties. Here, the ones you defined, the element types are okay. It has sections, it's divided this model into 5 construction sections, actually 4 construction sections. You have the story information and the thickness. For the spaces, you have a similar thing, but for example, we enriched with this template information about, for example, the condition of these spaces, which are in bad, fair, and good condition. And also we enriched with this template who are the users. This is common spaces, and there are different tenants over here. So this is much cleaner, and it's much more useful and much more valuable than the original IFC model. But we can take this even one step further, because this is still in this standard Simplebim user interface. But if I open this in a new workspace that we defined, so we can get another view to the model. And now you can see, for example, the walls, that these are the different construction sections, A, B, C, and D. And within them, we have floors. Within them, we have different wall types. And for example, we can see that in this section, in this floor, we have 51.49 square meters of this kind of wall. And then you can change it any way around you want. For example, if you go story first, in this story, in this construction section, or element type first, where do I have walls of this type? Okay, on the first floor, how much of it in which of these construction sections? So we are a world apart from the original model that we got from the designer. And this model that we have over here is much more, much cleaner, more reliable. It's just a better model for us. And when you set up the automation, all I did was double click on this batch file, which ran this script, which imported this model, which applied this template, which exported this new IFC file. Just running a batch file, and bing, there it is. Okay. So just to wrap up, of course, this, you get an idea of what Simplebim is about, and you get an idea of what you can do with Simplebim. But when you actually want to do it, you need some help. And on our website, we have a blog where we have several articles about BIM theory, if you're interested in that, the big ideas. Then we have a lot of great tutorial videos, for example, for this BIM sheet, for this location editing, and all kinds of other stuff. Just watch the videos and you learn a lot by watching them. And then we have a support site where we have basic information, troubleshooting, managing the license, and then how-to articles about how you can do different things. And if you still don't feel you need help, then you can email at support@simplebim.com. And when you're convinced, then we offer basic training for these different possibilities and functionalities, like this is how you make selections, these are the different operations you can do. And then we have another training for this automation, which tells you how to set up and use templates and scripts. And then if you want to go even further and deploy this Simplebim process in the whole organization, then we have some services. You can contact us and we can help you do that. So that concludes my section, pretty much using all the time we have, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I think it's back to you, Jarmo.
Great, thanks. So thanks for the demo, and next let's have a look at the questions that we have. There's one question about the online trainings, classes regarding templates and scripts up. So right now there are no scheduled courses, but what I'd like to remind you also is that we have also the local resellers who provide this kind of a training, so you can reach out to us or them to figure out a way how to get you the necessary information. Then second question, maybe more towards Jiri. How far have you come with integrating scripts in CDEs? With CDE, I think we are talking about these common data environment type.
Yeah. So basically, the function of Simplebim is to improve the IFC models. So you import an IFC, you perform operations in Simplebim, and you export then a better IFC. And I think the integration, if you think about CDE, is that you should put the better IFC into the CDE. You shouldn't put the original one there, you should put the better one there. So, but in that sense, we don't have any, explicit integrations to those, but I think Simplebim is a crucial part in making any environment like that work better and produce better results.
One more question. I think this is more for Jiri.
Okay.
Do you plan to integrate a browser-based viewer of the IFC models in the future? Browser-based.
Yeah. So browser-based. Yeah. So I don't think Simplebim has a lot of functionality, a lot of tools, a lot of things you can do, and we don't really have plans to make all that browser-based. But it might be that if there is some use cases like certain workflows that require only a limited set of all the functionality in Simplebim, then we might make that kind of functionality browser-based. But we don't have plans to make the whole Simplebim as you have it today browser-based.
Cool. Okay, I think that answers the question. That was the last one. Just a brief reminder about our great resellers who are available there for your training and also license sales, license purchase needs. And maybe I'll bring up these case studies that we have recently published. Maybe this is some inspiration for you on how to use Simplebim app to really make the BIM opening process more efficient. So there's 3 pretty interesting case stories and pretty impressive things that these customers have done with the technology. Thanks a lot for joining this call, and it was great to have you. I think we'll be arranging these kind of sessions also in the future. So perhaps we'll see you later. Thanks a lot, and thanks, Jiri. Over and out.
Thanks, yeah.